Welcome to Leadership Rediscovered, presented by Shine Consulting. I'm your host, Laura Siebold. I'm very honored today to be joined by my guest, Bruce Lane. Bruce is a seasoned executive with more than 35 years experience helping organizations from $500,000 to $5 billion make things better and get things done. That sounds like a good plan. With a business brain and a pastor's heart, Bruce has an outstanding track record of helping individuals, teams, and organizations improve performance and accelerate growth. Bruce is currently a chair advisor for Convene in West Virginia, Southwestern Pennsylvania, and Western Maryland, where he coaches leaders around business and life challenges and leadership issues from a faith-based perspective. He's also president and chief growth officer of Lane Performance Group, where he helps organizations, teams, and individuals accelerate growth and improve performance through executive advising, executive coaching, and executive consulting. Finally, he is the executive pastor at Chestnut Ridge Church, where he oversees the day-to-day ministries and functions of the organization. Bruce received his MBA from the University of South Florida and his BA from Marietta College. And fun fact, Bruce Lane and I actually lived a mile apart from each other in
Centerville
Ohio.
High School.
Centerville, Ohio. Go Elks.
Go Elks.
Not grammatically correct, but that's all right. Go Elks.
Let's go.
Never even knew about this until 6 months ago.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Bruce Lane, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's an honor to be here and look forward to talking to you about leadership.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you. Well, the goal of our show today is really just to talk about your specific leadership journey and then your definition of leadership. So
Sure.
I'd love if you would start by just walking us through your leadership journey.
So my journey, based on all that, 35 plus
Yes, I had to
years
add that.
of work, the journey's been long, but it's been good. You know, I was thinking about that and, when I think back about leadership, first couple jobs, kind of leading yourself, then leading projects, then leading people. And I think early on I realized that, I didn't realize, I was much more profit, performance over people, over relationships. And so it was, let's go. And probably not the best leadership looking back. But, over the years, you just learn that, okay, if I really want to be a good leader, I'm going to have to do some things differently, and I'm going to have to lead through people, not just, try to drive over them. So a lot of work, a lot of pain, but it's been a great ride.
Very cool. And did I see that did you live in Alaska or work in Alaska for a period of time?
I had the opportunity for about 3 years to work with a company, awesome company up in Alaska. And for one of those years, I was there about every 2 weeks.
Wow.
So it was a long year. It was an awesome year, but it was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Very cool. And were you managing people in multiple locations at that
I was
time?
managing a couple different divisions. No, it was mainly in Alaska, but when I was here in West Virginia, I was managing from a distance before work from home really was a thing, and got to do a lot of cool things.
Yeah, that is something that I think has been on a lot of people's minds right now, especially as at this point we've gone through a few years with the pandemic of managing from a distance, but now we've got the scenario of maybe some people are back in an office together, some people are remote. Any wisdom you can offer up there?
I think looking back on that is those companies that knew the leaders that knew their people well and had that relationship with them and had the trust with them, working from home wasn't as big of a deal to lead, right?
Right.
Because you could turn on the Zoom call, figure out who they were. A number of companies would try to create those connecting environments like a 5 o'clock happy hour or, let's do lunch together, whatever, which seemed kind of weird, but really it was to try to mimic some of that community and one-to-one and, leadership and relationships. And so, I think it'll be interesting to see the number of companies that are requiring their employees to come back, and a lot of the employers are like, I don't want to come back.
I'm not coming back.
So it'll be interesting to see. But that whole remote work, it's just another way you've got to figure out how to lead.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up connection. And I think when the happy hours and all of that was happening, if there wasn't already an established connection there, it felt really forced and uncomfortable, awkward, as opposed to, oh yeah, this is just, we used to have lunch together every day and now we're just meeting online. But I mean, it's different, but it wasn't as maybe awkward of a situation.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting because, COVID really accelerated a lot of the issues that companies have out there now. And so from a leadership point of view, pre-COVID, things were still crazy, chaotic, but looking back, it's like, wow, that was just kind of complicated.
Yeah.
And now it's complex, and next year or next week, it could be chaotic. And so trying to be able to understand where you are as a leader, where your organization is, where the economy is, all that, and really knowing, okay, based on this, I'm going to have to lead differently.
Yes, absolutely. And if you didn't have that pre-established connection point,
exactly,
no greater time than now to start
exactly.
and start trying it with your team and with your people.
Absolutely.
So I think one of the things that's unique about you and your career is that you have been a leader in an organization, but you are also an executive coach and an executive advisor. So you've kind of had the opportunity to both be in the leadership role, but also coach leaders. How do those two roles kind of intersect for you?
Well, in a little ways, it's like I have to eat my own cooking, right? If I'm coaching, right? If I'm coaching on different areas and I'm leading at the same time in other organizations, it's really, okay, am I doing this, right? Because it's one thing to say, in coaching, we don't say you should do this.
Right.
But helping people through leadership issues. But it's another thing to be in that leadership issue. And from your coaching, a lot of that is just helping somebody get unstuck. But as a leader and leading people, I can get stuck, right? I can get in my own echo chamber, like, well, this is what we're going to do. And then you talk through with somebody, you're like, that was a horrible idea to do. So it actually, in some ways, I thought about, hey, when I get through my real job,
right,
then I'm going to coach, right? When I've got all this.
When I know everything and how to do it.
Exactly. And they can't tell me what. Being actually doing it at the same time, I think it makes me a better coach, but coaching helps me be a better leader.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. It's very complimentary. Yeah. No, I agree with that too, for in my own experience as well. So you've had many roles within your career, and we'll dive through some of those.
Yes, I have.
But one that I'm very particularly interested to learn more about is that of the executive pastor of Chestnut Ridge Church. And for people who are listening who may not realize
what that
Chestnut Ridge is a large church, number one. So about how many people?
So how many people on my staff, on the staff that go there?
Both.
Well, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was about 2,000, 2,500, would fluctuate. Now, less people in the building, more people watching because of online and streaming. So it's a good size. I mean, it's a good size enterprise,
yeah.
Right? And so from an executive pastor point of view, people are like, well, what does that mean?
What is that? Yeah, that's what I want to know, Bruce. What does that mean?
Well, what it means is I report to the senior pastor, and all of the other departments, functions, ministries, they report up to me.
Okay, so you're like the chief operating officer.
Pretty much. Chief of staff, chief operating officer. So yeah, I've got 5 or 6 different functions. And it's about 20, 22 people. So it's a small business. And so churches that got to be a certain size realized that many times the senior pastor didn't have the skill to manage the day-to-day or didn't want to, right? They were busy preaching and teaching and that. And so this role's, it's probably been around 20 years, but really in the last 10, it has, more and more people, more and more churches have decided to have that role. And it's really that ability to, again, we don't want to, it's not that we're trying to run the church as a business,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to take a look at the church, our church, Chestnut Ridge as an organization, and how best does that need to be run to get the results that the church wants to, just like any business,
Just
right?
like
So
any
any
business,
organization.
even
So,
a nonprofit.
Nonprofit. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I've been doing that about 3 years.
Okay.
And as I look back, sometimes you have to look back at your career, how those dots.
How did I get here?
Dots connect. Well, the interesting thing, we've been going to the church since 15 years, right? And my wife actually was on staff before Karen as the administrator when I was going to Alaska, places like that. And so, you know a lot about, you think you know a lot about the organization until you're an insider, from an outsider to insider. But as I look back at my background of being able to do those different things, of working for different size organizations to working in different functions, finance, HR, leadership, being part of a church growing up, it really was a great fit for me because I had the background to really see the whole picture. And so, but it's not easy.
No. I mean, I think some people might think, oh, it's a church. People just hold hands and sing Kumbaya, right?
They I don't know if they do that anymore. Some might. But I mean, we've got 20 people. We've got lots of volunteers. And so my role not is only to make sure that, say trains run on time. And again, church, Sunday service, it happens every week, and at our church, it's a production because they do a great job. I mean, the only reason we can do this is because we got a great team on the field. But how do I help each of the directors get better, right? Part of that is in developing trust, leadership, breaking down silos, figuring out about turf wars. Those things happen because it's an organization. You have people and people are trying to do their best. And so that's where leadership comes in, right? And hopefully good leadership that you can really synthesize what's happening and be able to help make the right call, or better yet, help the people that you're leading make that call. But it's not always easy.
No, people are people, and everyone has different needs
at different times. And, trying to run a church, lead a church through COVID, it's the same thing. It's just like, wow, what's happening here?
Changes.
Going from simple to complex to, chaotic sometimes.
Right.
I mean, things are happening, levers are being pulled, and you're like, what are we going to do? Oh, and by the way, we got to get this, lights go on Sunday. So we never really had the opportunity to just say, let's spend the next 6 months thinking about it. It's like, okay, what are we doing Sunday? And I think the cool thing with that, though, is we got to do a lot, allowing the teams to experiment and being okay if it's like, it's not perfect. And you know what, that didn't work at all. And so through COVID, like a lot of companies, you had to try things new, but you got to try things new too. Right. And so that was a great byproduct of that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because like if it was a corporation or another type of an organization, any big decision that you have to make is often under the microscope. But I would assume with a faith-based organization, there's extra, sometimes maybe scrutiny on the decisions that are being made. And, looking back, we all have the ability to look back now and say, my goodness, we were all just trying to do our best and figure things out and make the right call at the right time.
Yeah. Not only do you have to, Sunday's coming, right?
Yeah.
So you've got that, but the church family that are people coming, those are your clients. Not really, but so any change you make not just affects the team, but it affects what's going on out there, right? Masks, no masks, this, that. Why'd you close this? Why'd you do that? We're glad you did this. You're horrible because you did that. And that was like the first week, right?
Yeah, all in the first 15 minutes.
And we're like, this is like everybody, this is going to stop. And it's so it's just, and that's why I think being a leader and understanding where you are and understanding that things are going to change and trying to help your team, me trying to help my team have clarity. We talk quite a bit at the Ridge and my teams and other folks I coach, what's the why and what's the when, right? Let's answer those questions.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing this?
Yes.
And what's the when? What's that? And are we clear on that?
Yeah.
And then who does what by when? So we know this, and then who does what by when is okay. Now, who's going to do the things there so we can accomplish this? Right. But that's clarity, and we don't always get it right. And some people think that well, I thought I was going to do this, you thought that, and generally that's on me as a leader. Okay, I was clear in my mind.
Sure.
Apparently I wasn't
Maybe
as clear.
Didn't communicate. Yeah.
And so those are different things that we look at, but always like, okay, what's the why and what's the when? What's the real reason we're doing this? And as a senior leadership team or a director team, do we agree with that? Mm-hmm. And we hash it out. And
I think that is so fundamental, though, to leadership, and it's something that gets missed oftentimes, especially in the day-to-day, the busyness, the chaos that's going on. But being able to take a step back and just say, for ourselves, question, number one, why are we doing what we're doing? But then also be able to articulate to teams, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, and then here's, overall what we're looking for, what that win is.
And help them connect the dots, right? Mm-hmm. Help my team connect the dots, right? Because I might already be out there and I'm like, this is where we're going.
Yeah. And
I have a tendency, my personality, my bent is let's go, right? Mm-hmm. We're going. And sometimes that's not fair to the team because they're not where I am, but I'm expecting them to be there. And so, what I tell them and what just through my leadership, it's like, you got to be really optimistic of where you want to go, but you got to be really realistic of where you are. And if you're not clear on both of those, right? And if you haven't laid that out to help people connect those dots, it's like, oh, okay, if that's where we want to go and we're here, now we can solve for these variables on how we get there. But if we don't know where we're going, or, hey, we're going to go there, but we're over here, makes no sense, right?
Yes.
But that happens a lot, right?
That does.
We've been part of teams. We've had leaders that are just like, you think yourself, and maybe some of the people report to me are like, what is he doing? Where is he going? Yeah. And again,
this buzz-headed.
Yes. But it's a lot of time it's just because of clarity. And we haven't laid the foundation. And sometimes, we may get into this, but a Sherpa, right, helps people get to the top. But there's different base camps along the way. They're not going straight up, right? They're going around. And I think sometimes in the past, maybe now, whatever, sometimes I'm like, we're going straight up, we're marching, and people are like, I don't have any oxygen right now. I need it, right?
This isn't gonna work.
It's not, And then we, it's like, why are you not with us?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a me issue. Mm-hmm. That's a me problem as a leader. So it's interesting.
Well, that's big though. Just being able to take a step back and say, wait a second, if they're not with me, is it their problem or is it my problem?
My kids laugh because I'm like, that's a you problem. Mm-hmm. I will tell them that.
Yeah.
If you're watching, sorry. But it's also, I've got to look in the mirror.
Yes.
And that's a me problem.
Yes. How can I show up differently?
And I think as leaders, we blow it. We don't get it right all the time. Mm-hmm. We're expected to. Mm-hmm. And so circling back and being like, guys, that's on me. And, apologize. And how do we, because if not, then the trust is broken.
Yeah.
Even if you've worked a long time together, that's on me. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's a lot of times I'll talk to leaders and they'll very openly and honestly share a challenge that they've had. And, I have this person and I need to say this and I don't want them to think this. And I'm like, just say that.
Yeah.
Say that. I think a lot of times we get so focused on what's the right thing to do and the right thing to say. And how do we, approach someone that we're just not honest about, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go.
We use a term more than what's the right thing to do. I think it was Andy Stanley, what's the wise thing to do, which is a different, because what you might think's right and what I think's right could be different, but wise, you can start to get to that. You reminded me of when you were talking about, I've got to have this tough conversation or whatever. Again, shocker for me. Don't mind the tough conversation, right? Having them. But we are actually we're reading a book as a leadership team at the church called The 100X Leader. By
the 100X?
100X Leader.
Like 10 times, but now we've gone to 100 times.
Because then it'll be 1,000 times to be the next one.
Yeah.
But it was on the chapter, and they talk about quite a bit through it on the continuum of support and challenge. Right? Somewhere in there. And so I want to run around. Okay, team, which one what do you lean to?
Oh.
2 of us were challenge. The other 8 were support, which makes a lot of sense. We're going to sure it. And it's not good or bad. It's just that's the bent, right? Mm-hmm. But when that's your bent, then it's like, okay, what do I have to do now? How do I amp it up if I have to have that conversation versus how do I have to amp it down?
Right.
Bring it down a little bit so that I'm not bulldozing over to get to my point. But so, when you have to have that tough conversation, you probably do. But I think we're not, what are they going to feel? How are they going to feel, right?
I don't want to hurt their feelings.
And most of the time, they don't even know what the issue is because you haven't set expectations properly, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then you're like, where did this come from? Right? And so it's that dance. I want to, because if I say this and they're not going to feel good and then they might quit, then I might have to replace them or find another person and there's nobody's hiring. Have the conversation.
Down the whole rabbit hole. Yes.
But part of that being a leader is having consistent conversations along the way, right?
Then it doesn't make it so hard.
You've dabbled a little in talent management development, right? It used to be once a year we'll have your review.
Right.
And
a look back to things that we can't change because they happened in the past.
And they're due in January, end of January, from the end of the year. I've got 10 of them to do. I don't remember anything. I've been yelled at twice. Everybody gets a B.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not helpful, right?
No.
The continuous conversations, trust. I'm for you. What do you need from me? Here's what I need from you. If you get in a rhythm of those, it's just a conversation.
Just like every other conversation that you've had.
But we don't do that because we're busy or we are comfortable. And then we wonder why it's such a huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've got my brain spinning in a lot of different directions, but I agree. I think most leaders are very well-intentioned and want to have those conversations, but just get, bogged down, distracted by day-to-day things. How do you carve out time or make that a priority for your team?
Yeah. So I calendar it. And I think my mind shift a number of years ago went to, this is their meeting. Not my meeting, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just going to be, what's your list of things you've accomplished? It's going to be, we're going to sit down. It's going to be the same time. Now, again, there's flexibility, right? Your meeting, what do you need?
Yeah.
How can I help? What projects are you working on that you need me to run interference for, right?
Yeah.
It's being a leader. It's showing up. That one-to-one meeting, weekly, monthly, however the rhythms of the company that people have, that might be the single most important meeting they can have for development, for performance, for effectiveness. Because if I'm doing that with you weekly or monthly, right? I got your back.
Right.
And if there's a problem, whatever, I know what you've got on your plate. I can go do whatever I need to do without wondering. We can talk about a project you might be in the middle of it where you need some help and not wait for 3 months and be like, why didn't that get done? Right.
Yes.
And it's clarity, right? It's communication, it's clarity, it's focus, it's those things. But you got to do them, right?
Yeah.
And if you got 10 people, you got to figure out how to get that in. But over time, you're way more productive by having those meetings than not.
Yes.
And then they're way more productive.
Yes. And it can become pretty efficient too as you meet more regularly. But I love that because I think, being able to set aside that time. I had a boss that did that many years ago. She would do the one-on-one meetings and just say, it's not a project status update meeting for you to report back on all the things that you're doing that I've tasked you with, but really it's your time to use however you want. And she stuck to it. I mean, we'd sit down and she'd say, okay, what do you want to talk about today? And kind of like coaching. And I loved that so much that I incorporated that into my leadership practice as well. But I think, again, it's also an opportunity, regardless of where you fall on that challenge support spectrum, it's your opportunity to show, more support than challenge in that moment. There's other times where you can incorporate the challenge.
And I think, one of the over the last couple of years, one of the ways they talk a lot about, employee engagement, right? Lots of that. Well, one of the things that employees want, how are they doing?
Yeah.
And how can I grow? Right.
Yes.
It's kind of two things, right?
Yes.
I'll look back, how am I doing? And then future, how can I grow?
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity to sit down and have that. You get to the point where people are like, I love this company. I will do whatever because they got my back, because they've got these things. And because part of that can be, okay, what do you want to do? Let's dream a little bit, right? Okay, you want to do that? How about I throw you that project? Yeah. That's all, people are like, well, that's the stuff. That's leadership 101.
It is.
Right?
It is.
It's individual, one-to-one leadership, and you can get into a rhythm too if you kind of have that. We used to call them drive-bys, how you doing, right? Just whatever. And then it's, okay, maybe weekly maybe it's a half hour, whatever. And then monthly, maybe it's an hour, we're going to drill down. And then quarterly, we're going to take a half day, whatever. Right. By the time you get to that annual review, it's like, I've already written it.
We've already had this conversation numerous times.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're just stoked to have a conversation with their boss on a continued basis. It's a little weird at first when you're like, hey, we're going to institute one-on-ones. What I do. Right?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
No, it's okay. But you're right. Some of them are 10 minutes. I'm good. We've got this. Okay, you sure? Yeah. But I think there's that accountability part that can come into that too. It's your meeting. What do you want to talk about? What do you work? Whatever. Where do you need my help? Okay, here's what I need from you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get into that fact that we don't close that loop, or we don't get to the point that said, hey, here's a couple things we need to talk about. And you nip things in the bud, or they're like, I didn't know. Again, okay, that's on me. I wasn't clear about that. But you can course correct much quicker than.
Yes.
And generally what happens too, I've seen, and this isn't good leadership, but it's human, right? You get your employees, you get your people that work for you that are kind of in this no man's land, right? They think they know what they're doing. They don't. They're not happy with their job. You're not, like, I hired a superstar and now they're horrible. Yeah. That's not true, right? Yeah. Again, because it's that we're not clear, we're not doing things, or we think what we're doing is too busy and more important, or we're just overcommitted.
Yeah. Or they should know. They're adults. I don't need to babysit them. They should know.
Or they did really good in this last thing. Why are they not doing good in this next thing?
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I cannot support you enough. So leaders, take time to meet with your direct reports one-on-one and do not cancel on them, right? Yes. Do not cancel on it. That's a non-negotiable.
99%, yes. But yeah, it's their meeting.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's their meeting. I love it. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Convene, because that's another important aspect of leadership for you. And again, it's something I wasn't super familiar with until a few months ago. And so I'd love for you to talk about what is Convene and then what is the connection to leadership there.
Sure. So, Convene, I've been with that organization 3.5, 4 years now. And really, it was an organization that brings leaders together, right? Because leaders running a business, being a leader, that's lonely.
Yes.
Right. And so we bring together business owners, business leaders, faith-based, really to have a time to work on their business, not just in their business, right? You get in your business, you're doing this thing. It's a week later, it's a month, it's like, oh, God, what I got to do? And so it's really a couple things, right? It's trying to help leaders be better leaders. And it could be at work, at home, friend group, whatever. Build a better business, a more profitable business, an organization, right? And the difference with Convene versus a lot of other peer groups or coaching is we do it because we feel that there's a kingdom impact. God has asked us to do whatever to glorify Him with our business. And so why wouldn't we want to make as much profit or do as much as we can to affect that kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And so Convene brings that together by bringing a group of 10 to 12 business leaders together around a table each month. And it's really a time to, as somebody has said, it's not just get your questions answered, it's to get your answers questioned.
Ooh.
Right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because we all come into it with, this is how we're going to do it. Because this is how I did it last year. Or this came up last time. But we'll have people bring in, and every month we work on there's usually a topic of importance to business leaders. Hiring, what do we do about inflation, things like that. But then we bring people, somebody will bring an opportunity or challenge to the table where they want counsel on, right? And the value of the peer group is that you've just got many people helping you be a better leader. Yeah. And that's key. And then with the executive coaching aspect of it too, it's, okay, how can now I take these 35 plus years, I'm an old guy now, of experience and being able to sit down and help them get unstuck, right? Help them. Okay, what are you dealing with? Things like that. So it's been great. It's an opportunity to just again use my passions and my background to help other leaders grow. So
well, and I think it's such a good use of all of the gifts that you do have. As you said, you've got the coaching piece, the leadership piece, the business piece. And, I think about what you're doing with Chestnut Ridge Church, with your own business, because you're a business owner too. You run your own business. And you're right. It is very lonely when you are running your own business. And you're not necessarily equipped to do everything well. And so to be able to talk to other people who have wisdom and more experience, maybe someone's further along in their business or they've encountered a similar challenge. Exactly. I mean, there's certainly a support component to it as well. But just to know you have kind of a caring, compassionate group of people that are there to support you in your business. And
I think the cool thing about that too is, when you think about leadership, right? Leadership is not, I've attained leadership. It's always about growing, getting better for self, right?
Yes.
If you can't lead yourself well, you can't lead others well.
So true.
And so part of Convene is, hey, I want to invest in myself to become a better leader so that I can impact in a much greater way. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm a better leader, not only am I going to be able to lead my team at the church better, but they're able to lead their ministries better. And that starts to affect not just 20 people, thousands of people.
Yeah, the ripple effect of that is huge.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't do it well, the ripple stops. And what are we doing, right?
Yeah.
What's the win? And so that's the other reason I think people want to improve their own self, improve their own leadership so that they can just lead others better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think to me, a lot of what leadership is all about is that ability to positively impact and influence other people. And, the sky's the limit in terms of what type of an impact you can have, good or bad, to be honest.
Well, we know that, right? We know,
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I think it's easier to quickly think of the leaders that aren't good
Yes.
than the leaders that are, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have had good bosses and bad bosses, no good leaders, but in the, scrolling, anything like that, it's not like, hey, let me tell you about a great leader. Sometimes you get it, but it's because I think people crave good leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Not
they might not even
management,
know it.
leadership.
Right?
Yeah.
They might not say that,
Mm-hmm.
but whether it's a family, whether it's a organization, not for profit, someplace you serve, the better the leadership is, wherever you are, wherever they are, the better that's going to be for everyone. And that's just kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. So that kind of leads me into one of the questions I always like to ask each of our guests, and that is, what is your definition of leadership?
I think to me it's helping individuals or teams or organizations just take that next step.
Mm-hmm.
It's different for everybody, and that's the hard part of leadership.
Yes.
But it's take the next step to get to whatever that common goal is. And so, I mean, that's probably not the textbook definition, but to me, why else would I be in leadership? Leadership is hard.
Yes.
People are like, it'd be great to be a leader. Really? You want my job for a day? Right?
It's a lot of extra work, and it's not very glamorous.
No, but it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But leadership is hard, and you got hard days, and you don't get it right every day. And so, and you have people that don't get it right every day. And so okay, what's just the next step to take? How can I help you? How can I help the team? How can I help that organization take the wise next step
Mm-hmm.
to, get where they're going?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be my definition.
No, I like that definition. Because of the unique position that you sit in with both coaching leaders and then also being in a leadership role,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see as kind of some of the most pressing challenges that leaders are facing right now? Or things that you worry about for other leaders in terms of what's coming towards them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the pace of change over the last couple of years, and the complexity of issues that are all hitting at the same time, that has the opportunity to burn a leader out or to help them get better, right? They got to know where they are. They've got to know what's going on in their world, to be able to lead others, right?
Yeah.
Self-care, all of that stuff for the leader so that they can be the best version of themselves to help the people that they lead and that they serve. And so I think that that's probably that pace of change, complexity, and then how do you deal with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to, for me sometimes, to compartmentalize what's going on. Okay, what variable do I need to look at first? If I pull this lever, what happens over here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, maybe I don't want to pull that yet. But I think because of that, and there's so much going on that that's why you got to step back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the Eisenhower boxes, the 4 quadrants, right? And it was urgent and important, right?
Yes.
And the one box is urgent and important. The other one is urgent, not important, important, not urgent, and both, right? We have to deal with, as leaders, things that are urgent and important, right? Whatever that is. fires, putting them out, whatever. But those are things we've got to deal with, right? Where we need to spend more time is things that are important but not urgent, right? The working on your business, the understanding, the strategy. Okay, if I'm just flying around, you and I might have talked about this, but I can fill up strategically my calendar and put puzzle pieces together way out in advance. But then when it comes to it, I'm like, why did I schedule that, right? And so I've tried to get in the habit now of even recurring meetings, putting a half hour in between, right? So I can ramp down and ramp back up. Because if not, I'm going to meeting to meeting to meeting.
Yes.
I'm not as good, but I'm not able to even function hour by hour by hour. And so, I will take time, and as I coach them, when do you have you time, right? For your business or your organization, and you got to calendar it, and you got to, and be okay that I can do these other things, right? What usually happens is we as leaders spend time on urgent, not important, because we think we can get those done quick, blah, blah, blah. We should not touch those.
Yeah.
Things that are urgent and not important at all, how do we automate them? How do we delegate them, right? And things that are not urgent, not important, like scrolling distractions. Why are we even doing it, right?
Yes.
But I think helping leaders understand what goes in those boxes, and again, I think it's an Andy Stanley quote: "Only do what only you can do." Right? Sometimes you're doing stuff, and then you're doing stuff by default or design. Sometimes you got to do it, right? Yeah. I don't have this person here.
Right.
I've got to hire up. This is new. I've got to lead that. But is it by design or is it by default?
And is it by design or default?
Right. And it's like,
that's a good question.
You got to be intellectually honest with yourself. It's like, well, and for folks that move from individual contributor to leader first time, right? Generally what's safe and it's fun in that is going back and doing what they did, right?
Yeah, comfort zone,
because that's also where they get their recognition, right?
Yes, and their value.
I was a great engineer, now I'm an engineer manager. Well, this is hard right now, so I'm going to go back and be a little bit more of an engineer, right?
Yeah.
Well, is that by default or design? And so we even have to help new leaders figure out where they are and be like, okay, this is the new job and this is what it's going to be. And you're going to feel, so.
Yes.
But that default or design and knowing, okay, it's default now because I got to do it.
Yeah, but I think that's an important question that leaders should be regularly asking themselves too, because I think sometimes, again, we just get so caught up in the day-to-day busy that we just lose track of what am I doing and why am I doing it? And am I even focusing on the right things? I mean, I have been in situations where it's just back to back meetings. And I had a leader I used to work with, and probably botched this quote, but he used to say, I think something like, never mistake the activity of busy for achievement. Just because you're busy and working hard doesn't necessarily mean you're accomplishing the right
might
things
not be moving the needle,
or the
right?
wise things that you should be doing. And so, but again, I don't think we often take the time to reflect and to take a step back and say, what am I doing?
Right. And if we know we should delegate it, but what usually happens is like, well, that's going to take time. So I'm just going to knock it out.
I don't have time to teach someone else how to do that. I can do it better myself.
But guess what happens next month? I got to do it. So it's almost like that hockey stick, right? We know we're going to go down. It's going to take more time, but I'm going to have more time here, right? It's that, what's the book? Essentialism.
Yes.
Essentialism by McCowan, I think. It was like, what are the essential things you really need to do and figure out how to delegate and offload the other ones, right? Not that they're not important. They just might not be important and urgent to you.
Yes.
And so, that's it. It was just a good book for me to like, no wonder I'm feeling like I'm overwhelmed as a leader. It's like, because I'm doing stuff that I shouldn't do or that I don't need to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think so much of our day sometimes is dictated by other people. It's someone else's agenda. You just think about managing your email inbox. I mean, your entire email inbox is pretty much someone else's agenda for you, as opposed to what are the things that you need to be focusing on and accomplishing throughout the day.
And my email, it seems like I've subscribed to everything. And then I get it. Now I'm
too.
busy.
I don't have time to read that.
Yeah, exactly. But I delete it instead of unsubscribe because that takes too long. And then I get something tomorrow and I'm like, what am I
Here
doing?
I go again.
Exactly.
Yes. Here I go again.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
That's funny.
So much goodness there. So I'm curious how you balance, because I think overcommitment is something that people are challenged with, and you serve many different roles at the same time. So how do you balance and how do you prevent yourself from becoming overcommitted?
I probably need a coach to help me figure that out.
I was asking this question for a friend.
Exactly. No, that for me probably is the toughest thing to do, because I enjoy all the things I get to do, but they all take time, right?
Right.
And so it's, okay, how do I really do this? How do I not say yes? What are my non-negotiables?
Mm-hmm.
And does what I'm doing fit in those buckets, right? And then being okay with saying no. Just I can't do that. And that's tough sometimes in business, because like that'd be a cool project.
Yes.
But I know sometimes if I'm overcommitted or taking that one more thing would overcommit me, I'm not good then on all the other stuff.
That's so true.
And then you're
diluting yourself.
You're diluting yourself, but then I get exhausted.
Yeah.
And then none of it's fun. It's like, what am I doing?
It becomes a grind.
It's a grind. And again, it's like, well, who's that on?
Mm-hmm.
That's on me.
That's a you problem.
That is a you problem. That's a me, right? And so, that's a battle I've had to do, just because I love to work and I love to do a lot of things in business wise, and my free time, I just like to do work. Part of it is self-care. Part of it is taking a Sabbath and really taking a Sabbath, saying, this week, I got to work I get to work on Sunday, working at church. Yeah. So like Saturday from 9 a.m. till Sunday at about 8, it's closed.
Nice.
Because,
we all need that reset.
Well, it's like, okay, I'm just not, because you know what? It's generally not life or death, and it's there in my email the next day. So, okay.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But I think that's really it. It's learning to say no and then just shutting it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think especially if you have a team, being able to identify, maybe it's a no for me, but there's someone else on the team that it does make sense to be a yes for them.
Exactly.
And sorting through that as well. So I know it's challenging, because especially in a coaching context, we very much meet people's needs, specifically one-on-one. But generally, if you could just, give some leadership advice, because you do know so much about leadership. What is it that you want the leaders of the world to know? Well,
I think a couple things. I don't know if they're quotes or axioms or what, but lead from the front. By leading from the front, you see what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. But you're also able to help pull your team. If you lead from the back, you don't really see what's happening, and it's all push. Yeah. So that'd be one of them. I'd also just, the whole thing on clarity. I think the more clear you can be as a leader, I won't say easier it is to lead, but probably it's easier because you've set that course.
You have the expectation already there.
Exactly. So that, and we kind of throw things around. It's kind of funny, but I was thinking about types of leaders, right? Mm-hmm. And I put them on. They all begin with S, right? You got to have self leadership, but then there's the Sherpa.
Yes.
Right? Helping people. Mm-hmm. There's the shepherd leader, which is care and feeding and protection. There's the servant leader, right? Why am I doing this? There's a situational leadership, which we haven't even got into, but it's like, okay, here's all what I know about leadership, but now how does that apply to a specific situation?
And a specific person.
And a specific person. And yeah, which just makes it that much more complex.
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to take, for me, I've taken all of this stuff, kind of mixed it up, continuing to learn, but then saying, okay, based on this situation, how do I lead?
Yeah.
What's the best? And sometimes I think, man, is this working? Right? The question like, okay, what are you really afraid of? Right? I don't think it's imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not a good leader, but is what I'm doing working? If I ask my team that, not am I a good leader or a bad leader, but hey, are you getting what you need based on doing what you do?
Or what can I do differently? How can I help you?
Yeah.
What can I change to be a more effective leader? I love that.
How can
question.
I clear the
yes
path for you? What do you need from me?
Yeah.
What can I do better? Because I think that's transparency. And then again, I think I said it before, but being able to say, I blew it, guys. I dropped the ball, and I caused all this other stuff, this havoc, because it's on me. And so just being able to say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so many problems or crises, could be avoided or minimized and not, get into the situation where they blow up as much if someone was just willing to say, my bad, that did not go the way I thought it was going to go, or I made a mistake here, and I'm sorry about that.
And I think the tough thing about leadership too is that sometimes you have to make the decision. And you have to make a tough decision, or you have to make a decision that, hey, I thought we were all going to do this. Yeah, but and you hope you get it right. But that's why leaders are where they are, because they
can make that tough call.
They can, and hopefully more often than not, it's right. And generally they see the big picture, right? Not where somebody you're leading might see their little big picture. But maybe that's it. Leadership's hard.
It is. It is, and it's not a popularity contest. I mean, that was something I had to learn, is you're going to make calls that people are not going to like. You're not going to always make everyone happy, especially when you have a big team of people.
Yes.
You're just not going to be able to make everyone happy.
And you got to be okay with that inside.
Yes. And that's hard sometimes to know that you are making, as long as you know you're making the right call, I think, and that wise, I'm going to use that. I like the wise call. The wise call, the wise decision, I think is.
There you go.
Yeah. Important.
Good.
I think you've created a book. Have you written a book yet?
No.
S Leadership. S, all your, Sherpa, Shepherd.
That'll be.
That can be. We just created a book for you. S
I will
Leadership.
immediately.
I have a logo for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other one I forgot. Shine. Shine Leadership. Wow. That's the other S.
That's the other S.
Maybe S, I could do a sun.
Yeah. See?
Well, but right, for you, your leadership, I'm guessing, the name of it, you're helping other people shine.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it's about.
You're shining light on a situation, whatever. So so thank you for the title of my book. You're
welcome.
The essence. The essence of leadership.
Of leadership.
Essence. ESSS.
Trademark that.
Yeah, I'm going to go do that.
Brand it or however, so someone can't steal that from you.
Talk to my friend Jim Matuga about helping me brand that. So.
Write a book. Oh my goodness. I feel like this time has gone so fast. What have we missed? Anything that we didn't cover? So many pearls of wisdom.
Gosh. No, I think we're good. I mean, I think that, I think everybody has an opportunity to be a leader because they can lead themselves. Maybe that's what I lead with. And it's always about getting better. And,
it's a journey.
It's a journey to dip your toe in. There's so many places that church, neighborhood, communities, organizations, they need good leaders. And so, but it starts with yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. Self-leadership.
That's my first S. I got it.
One of the S's. Okay. Can we do a lightning round really quick? Because I like to end with, the fun. Okay. 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can. This is kind of a competition, but there's no prize. Only the enjoyment for everyone listening.
Can't wait.
All right.
Can't
On
wait.
your mark, get set, go. What season best fits your personality? Fall. Okay, finally someone that didn't say spring. What's your most used emoji in text?
Poop emoji. Sorry.
That's awesome. What book, song, movie, or podcast has had the greatest impact on your life?
Probably the Bible. Well, no, it is the Bible.
Okay, very good. What's something about you that surprises people when they first hear it?
That I'm actually nicer when they get to know me. Shocker. Shocker, people out there.
Fill in the blank. I spend too much money on
Kindle books.
Oh, okay.
On leadership.
Oops, some people will be buying your own book. What celebrity would you want to play you in a movie?
I don't know who I'd want to, but everybody says it would be Kevin James.
Kevin James. Well, I mean, he's funny. So, okay, now I got to turn this off here. That was good. That was good. You
we
got
get through
through
most of them? What's another one? Just give me another one.
Well, actually, the next one was if you wrote a book, what would the title be?
The S's of Leadership.
That's perfect. Mic drop. I love it. All right, Bruce Lane. Sometimes I call you Bruce Wayne,
It's
which
okay.
I've never
I'm
told you
Batman.
that. But yeah, Bruce Lane. Thank you so much for being here
It was
today.
a pleasure. It was fun to talk
absolutely.
about this subject.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, that's all the time we have on Leadership Rediscovered. Until next time, shine bright, everyone.